the noble relationship is spirituality. Spirituality today invites us to have a dignified relationship with the other.
मूलं समीक्ष्य यत्र गम्यताम् सर्वेषां मार्गं तथैव प्रवृत्तिः मूलं समीक्ष्य यत्र गम्यताम् सर्वेषां मार्गं तथैव प्रवृत्तिः.
Sisters and brothers, a very hearty welcome to each one of you to this monthly recollection talk. We are in the month of October, a month that invites us to have some lofty thinking from the point of view of certain figures whom we recollect and remember in this month. This month very specifically invites us to reflect on the aspect of our life from three perspectives. First of all, how deep you loved. Secondly, how holistic you lived. And thirdly, how dignified you gave way. Love, live, and leave. These are some of the prime dimensions of human lifestyle. I remember a venerable priest telling me, every day when I encounter some good people, I become all the more richer. Yes, richness is not connected with the currency that you have in your wallet. You become rich when you encounter people who are noble, dignified, and great in their lifestyle. We become poor when we are not able to encounter them and to have some connection with their lives. They might have lived hundreds of years before us, but still their memories can make us to live once again the goodness that they permeated in our times. Otherwise, we become small by doing trivial things in our lives. Yes, my sisters and brothers, the month of October invites us to look up to three persons very closely. In fact, they are three puny figures. There is one little girl known as Teresa of Child Jesus. Yet another puny man, Mahatma Gandhi. And yet another, Francis of Assisi. Three people who loved deep, lived holistic, and gave way in a dignified manner. I just would like to take up these three figures in a short manner for us to have some review of our own lives, especially in this month of October. St Therese of Lisieux, popularly known as the Little Flower. A girl, I call her a girl because she just lived a few years of her life here on earth. Entering the convent at the age of 16 and died at the age of 24, Therese did not have much time like any of us to speak about volumes of life experience. I was just wondering how she is counted to be one of the greats in our time today. In the year 1997, Pope John Paul II declared her Doctor of the Church. She has only written a small booklet as her autobiography, titled The Story of My Soul. Can a person be called Doctor of the Church with that one small background? There were only two other women who were declared Doctors of the Church before Therese, and they were St Therese of Avila and St Catherine of Siena. But they were mystics, people who have gone to the loftiest dimensions of interiority. Reading some of their books, we would be feeling like we are jumping into a deep well. That was the depth of their spirituality. Therese, in fact, had nothing of that sort to claim, but still, she is declared Doctor of the Church. All other doctors of the Church are people who are men, and they were learned people. You enter into any library, you would find their books, volumes after volumes. But here there is a puny little girl who has nothing of that sort to claim. But she had only one thing as her weapon in life. My vocation is to love. My vocation is to love. Yes, my brothers and sisters, this is that noble dimension of her life. She loved deeply. As a result, she permeated the concept of love, that which she experienced in her life, to everyone who came in contact with her. She defined knowledge as love. There is no more future for the world other than through loving. And that's exactly the knowledge that we need to possess today. I compliment this experience of Therese, of the love life that she lived, with that gospel passage from the Gospel of John chapter 12 verses 20 to 22. A group of Greeks came to meet with Jesus. What was the reason for that? As all of us are well aware, Greeks are people who are well known for their thirst for knowledge. And when they heard about a man called Jesus, who speaks such lofty words and ideologies, they felt they should come and meet with him, and if possible, they should take him along back to their country, Greece. That was the reason they wanted to meet with him. And when they came to him and spoke with Jesus, Jesus gives them a message for life. He says, unless a grain of wheat falls down and decays, it's of no use. The message is very clear. Your knowledge will have no impact until and unless it is used for the good of the people around you in loving them. That exactly is that grain of wheat falling down and getting decayed. Today, Jesus is inviting us to that experience through this puny figure of St Therese of Lisieux, someone who loved deeply and thereby understood the person of Christ more closely. Remember one of those statements St Therese of Lisieux made when she was struggling with a lot of interior problems. She was made lonely and was locked behind the door. She cried out one thing, and that statement was for the whole world. My sun is shining behind the clouds. The clouds would move away, but my sun, S-U-N, is permanent. His light can never be stopped by any cloud, the problems, difficulties that I find in my life. Love alone suffices. Do you love deeply? Yes, my sisters and brothers, the awareness of this little girl's life should take us to yet another person in our own country. We know on the 2nd of October, we are celebrating the life of the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi. When I think about Mahatma Gandhi, two things that come into my memory are his spectacle and his pocket watch. It is said, on that tragic day when he was shot dead, as he fell down onto the ground, calling on the name of the Almighty, his spectacles were thrown away and his pocket watch stopped functioning. They have got volumes to tell us. One of the most important aspects of today's lifestyle is to have immediacy and satisfaction out of anything. But Gandhi's spectacle is inviting us today to have a review of our own lives. We need to get back that vision once again through the spectacles of Mahatma Gandhi, to have the loftiest conviction regarding our lifestyle as Indians today, and above all, as human beings. A man who propagated non-violence, a man who lived his life in total celibacy, a man who practiced poverty in actual relationship with the poorest of the poor in the society, a man who propagated ideals of true love through that wonderful autobiography, The Story of My Experiment with Truth. Gandhi never proposed anything before us without having an experience of that in his own personal life. Even when he was talking about non-violence, he began to live it in his personal life. Yes, there are certain satirical writings about him when it is about celibacy. But at the same time, his way of life had been something of an eye-opener for the humanity around us. I believe we need today to get back that spectacle of Mahatma Gandhi in our lives, to have a different vision about life, about non-violence, about poverty, about celibacy, about love for the humanity at large. There is a beautiful narration that when Mahatma Gandhi was speaking with Mountbatten, he was telling him, when you return from this nation, you should return from here as good friends with Indians. We are never enemies. Things of different nature would happen in our lives. At the same time, we should be able to encounter it with a sportsman-like attitude. And that's where love remains. Mahatma Gandhi's lifestyle to have a new vision of India through a spectacle that is spectacular is admirable. Secondly, I look at him from the point of view of that pocket watch that stopped functioning. We need to revive the clock once again. The pocket watch of Gandhi has to be revived again. History shows us that time and again, a returning to the past can help us to have a future with a better vision. Because life is always about focusing on things that are necessary. You can never get back to history without reliving it. By keeping a cotton cap or wearing a cotton shirt, you never become a Gandhian. It has to be instilled first inside of us. I still remember a wonderful photograph on Mahatma Gandhi on that day of the independence, when the whole nation was celebrating, bursting out crackers and crying out Bharat Mata Ki Jai. There was a puny figure walking opposite to it in a lonely way. Mahatma Gandhi. To give way is the most dignified way. Today we need to get back the spectacles as well as the pocket watch of Mahatma Gandhi. Yes, my dear sisters and brothers, history always speaks to us volumes about people who lived their life in a lofty manner. Thirdly, we encounter yet another great figure on the 4th of October, Francis of Assisi, a man of the 13th century. You know very well, historically, when we look at Francis of Assisi, He lived in an affluent time of the world. 13th century was well known for its affluence in business and industry. And as a result, people had everything. Christianity was booming up. Mighty churches all around. People had been visiting the church regularly. And diplomatic relationship of the church with the secular world was at its peak. Pope Innocent the Great was the one who was at that time the Pope of the church. He had such a great relationship. That's why he was even given the name Innocent the Great. In all these peak moments of the church's life, there was a puny figure crying out aloud, "The church is falling. The church is falling." And that cry had some impact on the society. Yes, my dear sisters, my dear brothers, look at this figure of Francis of Assisi. What does it mean when we say that the church is falling? It means that it is not the external greatness or the applause that we receive in our life that makes us great. The lofty level of our living, in loving, in noble way of communicating, and that has to be from the ideals of the scripture. Francis chose yet another way, to be small. Most of us do not like to be small, but he chose a name, Friars Minor. Yes, my dear sisters and brothers, the call for us today is to get back to this identity, to be small before God and great in our lifestyle. In order to be more and more small in his life, the one word that Francis of Assisi constantly used was brother. He called himself and others brother or sister. You know, this particular word brother emerges from the Bible itself. The very question that God asked humanity in that way was, "Where is your brother?" Almost meaning to ask, "Where is your love?" So we must remember this concept of the brother has no gender at all. It's an invitation to realize our own identity in relationship with the other with whom we are coming in contact. The noble relationship is spirituality. Spirituality today invites us to have a dignified relationship with the other. There is a beautiful incident narrated in the life of Francis of Assisi along with his brothers. One day, as Francis was out from the monastery preaching the word of God, his brothers were all in the monastery. At that time, a thief entered into the monastery in order to steal some food. But these friars who were there, they caught him, they beat him very badly and chased him out of the house. When Francis of Assisi returned, they narrated to him all what happened. That was the most sad moment in the life of Francis. It is said he began to cry. When they asked him, "Why are you crying?" he told them, "Brother thief came to have some food and you beat him down." What a sad thing. These young men who were with Francis were also having some lofty ideals in their life. They were able to understand the cry of Francis. And Francis told them, "Go, fetch brother thief and come back. Let's all have our meal together." Leaving the food behind, all these friars went out of the monastery and they began to cry out, brother thief, come back." Yes, my brothers and sisters, this is the call for us. To see in everyone God's face and to call the other as brother is the dignified way Francis of Assisi chose in his own life. When we speak about this concept of the brother, as I already mentioned, it has no gender at all. Everyone is a brother for me. There should equally be a springboard to have this concept of the brother. In order to understand who my brother is, I should also have the clarity who my father is. This is what we all should have an inner topography. What do you mean by an inner topography? There should be an interior world where we have developed a sense of conviction about a fatherhood that is existing beyond the biological dimensions of our life. All the great people whom we encounter in history who had been struggling through this inner topography in order to find the identity of the father whom they are searching for. We have various people mentioned in history about that. Take the case of Moses. Who was he? He did not have parents to call out. Of course, he had his parents, but he had no chance to live with them. He was drawn out of water and was sent back to the palace of Pharaoh. A man who did not experience the intimate relationship of the father and the mother. Get back to our own country, we would see yet another person, Lord Krishna. It is said, he too did not experience the love of his parents. Of course, he had also his parents, but they were in the prison. Move a bit further, we will find a gentle name coming out before us, Sri Buddha. It is said, when Buddha was born, his mother died. The name of his mother was Maya Devi. Yes, Maya is illusion. When Buddha is born, illusion went away. He did not experience the love and the care of his parents. There comes before us our God, Jesus Christ. Totally different from all others. Others had someone to refer at least to say that he is my father, she is my mother. But in the case of Jesus, he had no one to refer to as his father. Someone who struggled all through his life to find the identity of his father. Yes, if we go still further, we will find yet another person, Muhammad Nabi. It is said he was born a yatim, orphan. Even before he was born, his father died. 6 years after his birth, his mother also died. Nabi grew up as an orphan. All these great people who went about searching and speaking about God are people who experienced their inner topography totally strugglesome. But they cried out, Abba, Abba. That's where we see Jesus now coming out with that beautiful statement, Abba, Father. Mary had a son. He was young. He went about preaching about a father about whom no one knew much. But when everyone went away, he laid himself down on the sand and cried out, Abba, Abba. And many people said, he is mad. Yes, he is mad because he is trying to see a father in someone whom we can never see. And his madness is today our knowledge. Yes, my sisters and brothers, it is here that we get connected with Francis of Assisi as well. We see in Francis a man who was struggling to understand that Abba consciousness. We know that wonderful incident that happened in his life. One day, seeing his son not growing in accordance with his liking, his father, Peter Bernardo, took him to the bishop. At that time, the last discernment and decision came from the bishop. A good number of people of Assisi went with them because they knew today something is going to happen here. They were all gathered together. Peter, the father of Francis, began to attack and accuse him very badly and told the bishop, "I do not need a son like this. How can I bear with him?" Francis was not getting connected with all these accusations. He stood there, disconnected totally. Seeing that, his father was all the more angry. He went close to him and told him, "You know one thing? Even this ring which you are wearing belongs to me." And that was the time some sense came to Francis. He realized, it is true. Everything that I have now belongs to my father. Therefore, he began to do one thing. He began to remove everything that he wore. The ring, the outer garments, and then the inner garments. Folded them all together, laid it before his father, and told him, "Until now, I had a father here on earth, Peter Bernardo. But now onwards, I have a father in heaven. Only one father, Abba." Nikos Kazantzakis, the one who wrote the biography of Francis, writes like this: "There were very many women also standing around. But when Francis became stark naked, removing his clothes, none of them bent their head. Will a midwife bend her head when she sees the naked body of the mother and the child? So also, when you are in your purity and sanctity, there is no shame existing around. There is only brotherhood. From then on, it is brother, sister, brother, son, sister, mourn, even sister, death. Relationship. It all matters how deep you loved, how holistic you lived, and how dignified you give way to the other. Yes, my sisters, my brothers, today, when we remember these three figures in the month of October, St Therese of Lisieux, Mahatma Gandhi, and Francis of Assisi, three puny figures, but greatness was all around them because they lived, they loved, and they gave way for the other. I invite all of us to have this attitude, especially to love, live, and leave, so that we can have a holistic perspective about our life. Love alone suffice. Amen.
मूलं समीक्ष्य यत्र गम्यता सर्वेषां मार्गं तथैव प्रवृत्तिः